What's up, YouTube? KS Gun Guy here. Thanks for joining me today as always. If you like what you see here, do be sure to like, subscribe, and share. There's plenty more content on the way. So I'm excited to show you today the HK P30 V3 LE version. And if you've followed my channel for any length of time, you know I'm definitely a fan of HKs, certainly with the VP9, the VP9 SK, but I've had a little bit of experience with P30s over the years as well. Not only the, I guess your kind of regular model like this, and I'll maybe go a little bit more into that here in a moment, but also the P30 SK, which is very similar to the VP9 SK as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this, and we'll be taking a look at several things, not only the stats of the firearm and the features of the firearm. Of course, we'll be wheeling and shooting along the way as always. We'll take a look at the value of the firearm, kind of what you get for your money, and how there's a fair amount of difference between the different versions and the money that you might be paying for this. We'll wrap it all up and go along with that. So let's go ahead and get this started. Of course, this is unloaded, and it does have an unloaded magazine with it as always. So let's knock some stats out of the way here real quick. The overall length of the firearm is 7.12 inches. The overall height is 5.43 inches. The width of the firearm is 1.37 inches. The barrel is 3.85 inches. The weight with an empty magazine, like this, is 26.08 ounces. Now, I mentioned that this is the LE version, and what I mean by that is it comes with 3 15-round magazines. One nice thing about these magazines, they are compatible with the VP9 series. So you can put this in your VP9 or VP9 SK, and you can run with it. I like that it's not proprietary. It's kind of nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at some features of the firearm and see what things are a little bit unique about this, and certainly some features that I really enjoy, and perhaps one or two that I'm not quite as fond of. So one of the biggest drivers of the P series as well as the VP9 series is the ergonomics, the grip, and several things going on with this grip. First and foremost, you'll notice that there are certainly some pronounced finger grooves. Now, one thing that's really nice about these finger grooves, they're not so outlandish that they necessarily force your fingers one way or the other. Now, there are some guns out there that are a little bit more pronounced, and people go even as far as shaving them off. I think with grips like this, it's probably a little bit less likely. I think your hand can kind of mold to it and move around a little bit without them being really forced into place, which is nice. Now, you'll notice on the grip, it almost looks like the grip is, well, kind of broken, and it's really not. One thing that this shares similar features with the VP9, it not only has removable back plates that come with it, small, medium, and large, and this is the medium, but it also has removable side straps as well. Once again, small, medium, and large. And a cool thing about this is you can actually mix and match these up to 27 different combinations. So you can have a small on one side, a large on the other, medium back strap, so on and so forth, to really customize that grip to fit your particular hands. So it's kind of a really nice feature out of the box. Now, another thing about this grip, and I've actually notated this before in my VP9 series, the grip texture on the P series is actually just, I think it's a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more comfortable, and it's actually just a little bit more aggressive. Now, I've got with me the VP9. Of course, it is unloaded, and the only reason I have this out here for just a moment or two is to compare the grip texture a little bit, and I'll hold each one of these up to the camera so you can really see. But the VP9 has these little squigglies or little bananas, and I've always said that the VP9 texture is very nice, and I think it's certainly enough to give you a good purchase on the firearm. However, on the P series, those squigglies aren't there anymore. It's a little bit rougher of a texture, and I've always said I wish I could take this texture and put it on the VP9. Sadly, that is not the case. So, and they are not interchangeable, unfortunately. Maybe that's something that they'll do down the road. Who knows? But again, it's a really nice feature for the firearm. Not only the interchangeability of it, but also the texture. Now, another thing about the grip that's really nice, it does have a little bit of a recess here for the magazine, so you can actually yank that magazine out. You can get a little bit more of a purchase on it. So it's really nice that they have that on there. Now, along with the magazines is is the ambidextrous European magazine release on here. And one thing, I like it quite a bit. I'm certainly getting more and more used to it as I spend more time with HK firearms. But although my fingers are long, my thumbs aren't necessarily that long, so I can't really reach it without really drastically changing my grip to get the magazine out. So I actually use my middle finger. So when I move the gun around, I still have to change my grip, but I don't have to change it quite as much, and it's a little bit more comfortable to me. By the time I get a new magazine in there, it's actually ready to go. So that's my method. Some people actually use their index finger as well, so your mileage may vary there. Now, another ambidextrous feature of the firearm is going to be your slide lock or slide release. I don't really get into that debate, whether it's a lock or release. You can press the button down on both sides. It will release, so I call it both. Either way, it does have that feature. It also does have your accessory rail for lights, lasers, grenade launchers, that sort of thing, which is always nice. Now, another thing about this is a double action, single action firearm, and so it does have an external hammer on it, and although you can't carry it cocked and locked, because you'll notice there's no external safety, although there is a place for it because one of the models actually does have the safety. I think it's the VPS V3 instead of just the V3. So instead, this one actually does have a decocker on the back. So right now it's in single action mode. And if you press that decocker on the back, it does put it into double action mode. So it changes your trigger response there a little bit, just like any other double action, single action firearm. So more on the trigger and that sort of thing here in just a little bit. As we move up the firearm and talk a little bit about the slide, a couple of things. It does have your front and back slide serrations on it, and I find them to be certainly very usable. I mean, they're very nice. They're very comfortable. They don't bite too much, but in my opinion, they bite just enough. Now, I've always said that the milling on the P30 is really nice. I think they did a very good job at making it not only user-friendly and streamlined, but I think they made it pretty attractive. And there's a coating on here, and I always forget the name of the coating on this, unfortunately. However, from what I understand, it's designed to really stand up to adverse or harsh conditions. And so if you know the name of the coating on that, be sure to leave it in the comments. I'd appreciate that. It always, for whatever reason, eludes me. But a very robust, very good finish on the firearm, so it should last a long time. So let's go ahead and take a look at these sights here for just a moment or two. Now, I mentioned again, this is the LE version, and aside from the 3 magazines, this actually also comes with stock night sights on it. And they're actually really nice night sights. They glow pretty well, and they're reasonably easy to pick up at the range. I would prefer something a little bit more high def in the front, perhaps something a little bit more eye-catching. But these do the job, and they do have a really nice ledge, almost a hook, right here for one-handed manipulation. So I think not only it could bite into the edge of a table or something like that, but it could grab your belt as well. So really nice feature there. One other feature about the firearm is actually there's a little well here where the trigger rides in, and it's the exact same thing as the VP9 or VP40. They've got this little well for the trigger, and for my style of shooting, I don't use the pad of my finger. I know it's not the best habit. I've just been doing this my whole life, and my fingers are, again, a little bit longer than normal, so this is just a little bit more comfortable for me. So this well here, this indention here, sometimes can catch my finger a little bit against the trigger, especially if I'm riding the trigger a little bit lower than normal. The VP9 SK has done away with that valley, so hopefully someday in the future they'll do the same with these, but for the time being it is what it is. The only other thing, really, I mean, from a design standpoint, again, I think they've really shaved off the lines really nice, and just the fit and finish, I think, is really top-notch for a polymer type of firearm. Obviously, there are going to be firearms out there that are far more pristine or better fit and finish than this, your high-octane 1911s, that sort of thing, but for a polymer firearm, this is pretty nice, which leads us a little bit into value here for just a moment or two before we take a look at some shooting at the range. These really, they have a wide range of money that you can spend on these. And what I mean by that, you can really find these anywhere in the mid 600s, lower, even low $600, all the way up to even $1,000, depending on which version. And the version that's the most expensive that I'm aware of, and again, feel free to correct me in the comments, I believe is the V1 LEM. And that version actually, I believe it's double action only, but it's a very light double action pull, and the hammer on it is it's not as pronounced as this. It's actually more recessed in there. Since it's just double action, you can't cock it back for your single action fire. And I've always been very interested in the V1, but it's tough to justify that kind of money for a firearm like this, just for that type of action. But I hear they're really nice, and I know there's some really cool videos out there. Be sure to check them out on that. So that's enough about the features and the stats on that. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of shooting at the range and see how this does. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage at the range. So, this is kind of a moment of transparency and honesty with you. I'm very used to striker-fired firearms, and when I get into a double-action, single-action firearm, it takes a while for me to really adjust to it. And for whatever reason, with this particular firearm, I couldn't dial it in. Now I only put about 200 rounds through this for this particular video and this shoot, and it's been probably a year and a half or so since I've fired this gun before that. It's been a while, and so it's kind of like, you know, learning to ride the bike all over again, unfortunately. And so there are a couple of unique things about this trigger, and we'll talk about that here. Like I said, again, it's double action, single action. So your double action fire is a relatively heavy. It's about 10-pound pull on this, except it's extremely smooth. So we'll go ahead and fire that a couple times. Again, it's pretty heavy pull, but very smooth. Now, once you get into your single action, here's your reset on this. It's about 2.5, 3 millimeters out, so it's not the shortest reset, and I will do this again. And then we go to the front. Now it's in single action, so your trigger changes. If you watch, if I put it into double action, that trigger's going to go out quite a bit. So we'll go ahead and do this again, but we'll do it in single action mode, which brings that trigger back again. So we've got our uptake, again, very smooth. And a little bit of resistance there, and then we get to our wall, and there's our brake. And then our reset. It's a fair ways out there, and then we get to the start. Now, one thing about this trigger I noticed while I was shooting is when I would shoot the gun and it would go back into reset, I'd get to the reset and there's a fair amount of uptake back to the wall again, and enough of an uptake to where it kind of catches me by surprise a little bit. I wasn't doing a very good job of anticipating that and riding that until it got to the wall. So I was sort of anticipating the gun going off before it really did, and perhaps there was a little bit of flinch in there. So the bullets were a little bit more wild than normal, and I'm kind of a wild shooter anyways. I'm a defensive shooter. I'm not a bullseye shooter, and so from a defensive standpoint, this gun still definitely does the job. Every bullet hit the paper, and some even hit relatively close to the bullseye, but it was not terrifically accurate for me, and I blame me more than the gun. The gun is certainly very accurate, but for whatever reason, again, I just wasn't connecting with this very well. And I was testing another double action, single action firearm at the same time, the CZ-P07. I kind of wanted to put them side by side. More on that in a later video, but again, I found that I couldn't connect with this very well. It's not a knock on the gun at all. It's a knock on the shooter, but it's something to be aware of. It is certainly a very different manual of arms and a different mechanism, a different type of trigger. If you've spent a lot of time with striker fires, it takes a while to get used to something like this, but once you do, not only is it a very good-looking gun and fantastic ergonomics and fit and finish, but it is also a very good shooter. So, but you know, once we wrap everything together, you know, there are definitely some pros and cons with this firearm. I think some of the cons being the cost, depending on what version you go with. It's a pretty healthy chunk of money to spend on a polymer firearm. Although on the flip side, it's a very well-made, very ergonomic firearm. You get a lot of good features with it, especially things like night sights and 3 magazines, that sort of thing. And so it's kind of one of those you get what you pay for, and I don't always believe in that saying. There are times where value, in this case firearms, are phenomenal firearms and very good for the money, but there are times also when you part with a little bit more up front, you know, you get a really good quality firearm. So your mileage again may vary there, but it's a good firearm. So overall, I mean, I love HKs, and the ergonomics I think are just about second to none. It takes a while to get used to shooting a gun like this, and I wish I could have produced better shooting than I did on film, but I take you guys along with me regardless of whether I have a good day or a bad day, and it is what it is. So hope you've enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on this. If you have any experience with the P series, or maybe some questions about it compared to maybe VP9, VP40, things like that. So be sure to leave a comment, and like, subscribe, and share. Be sure to join us on Wednesday nights. Big Johnson, Guns and Gear, 1776 or Bust, and I get together every Wednesday night around 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, and we talk all things guns. And we do switch that up to each of our channels, so it might be mine one week and it might be one of theirs the next. Take a look down below. I have links to both of their channels. Be sure to subscribe to them as well and follow us along in our journey through the realm of firearms. So looking forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time. Thanks.